And we're live.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. I am your host, as always, guys, Coach Steve. We are in the heart of week 10 of fantasy football, guys. Very exciting stuff. We are more than halfway through the fantasy regular season here, and we have a lot to get through tonight, obviously. Week 10 is about upon us. We have Panthers-Bears tonight. Not that exciting, but no, nothing wrong with not having any football at all, at least. So we're going to rock and roll with that. And again, we have the whole crew back with us today. So let's get them going in here. Coach John, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Feels good to have the squad all back together again. Week 10. I'm excited. Thursdays, get to talk football with the boys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we welcome back Coach Gibbs once again. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how are you? Can't wait for this barn burner tonight.
Yes, it's not going to be that exciting. Justin Fields, Khalil Herbert, both not playing in this game here. So not a lot of fun. But we have a lot to talk about, and we're not going to talk about Thursday night. So Albert, what's going on? Hello, how are you? Welcome in as always. Love to see you in the chat. And let's get in some news real quick, and then we'll start getting into the weekly starts and sits. All right. So for fantasy news, it's mostly just practice reports based on what I could find in the short time that I had this afternoon. Players not practicing this week. There's some pretty heavy hitters. Damian Pierce not practicing Thursday. Nico Collins not practicing Thursday. T. Higgins not practicing today, and there's already reports saying that he is going to miss week 10. So we'll have to wait to see on that for sure, but not looking good for those three players who are pretty much, some of them at least are some really good players you want in lineups. Aaron Jones, Jamar Chase, Zay Jones, Demario Douglas, all limited today. Dave Montgomery, Kyler Murray, and I'm pretty sure James Conner are all going to be back in action after missing at least 2 to 4 weeks. And Keontae Mitchell got added to the limited practice. He actually got downgraded after having a full practice yesterday. So that is most of the fantasy news here. Again, nothing really crazy to go over. I don't think so. Something happened. Someone got signed this week. Someone signed.
Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant.
Got signed got reinstated by the NFL and then got signed by the Cowboys. Good for Martavis. Good for him.
I think for Leonard, Leonard Fournette get signed this week, or was it last week he got signed? I forget.
Who?
Leonard Fournette. Didn't he get signed
last week? Yeah, last week got signed.
All right.
Yep.
Trying to find more spicy things on the news, but I guess we'll have to wait till those kind of things. That's what it is. So let's get into the start and sits for the night, guys. We have a lot to go over. We have about 12 games to go through, and we will start here at the top. We're back in Germany once again. Indianapolis Colts and New England Patriots. Question of the game here. Start with you, John. Giving Demario Douglas another shot in your flex this week.
I think you absolutely can. Obviously depending on his health and what the situation is. I know he was limited today, but Devontae Parker's out. Juju is still kind of banged up. So, you're going to get another game of Demario Douglas being the number one guy. As always, it's tough to really love the New England offense, especially the pass catchers. But I think he's going to see enough volume against a not impressive Indianapolis Colts secondary and can be just fine in your flex. Probably be a low-end wide receiver too.
Yeah. Jibs, how do you feel about Demario Douglas?
I'm definitely starting him, especially given some of these injury news late in the week. T. Higgins being pretty much out for this week is definitely making me more intrigued in Demario Douglas. I do know the Colts are pretty terrible with their run defense, so I could see Bill Belichick cooking up Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke. So I'm not expecting high numbers at whatsoever from him, but if you give me something similar, maybe a little bit more than what he had last week, I'll still take that for a flex.
Yeah, he could definitely offer you a nice floor play for a flex option. Some other starts here. Again, there's not a lot of starts here. Jonathan Taylor, you obviously start him. You start Ramondre Stevenson in a favorable matchup. Michael Pittman is obviously a start still. You've seen all the targets. Sits, I really don't want to start either quarterback. I think Minshew might be okay in super flex leagues, but I really don't want to start him. I don't really want to start Mac Jones. He had the great matchup last week and failed. Zach Moss's touches has just been cut down to almost nothing. Kind of concerned about even considering him as an option. Colts tight ends, again, that's just a carousel constantly through the season. Alec Pierce, probably a sit, but it will depend on a guy we're going to talk about next real quick. We're not going to talk about because he might be out. Josh Downs did not practice today as well. I missed that in the practice reports. He did not practice today with his knee injury, so that's definitely a concern. But John, Hunter Henry had a little bit of a bounce back game, obviously a little bit better game, not bounce back, but better game. Is he startable as a tight end for you?
I think so. I think that, again, tight ends are always, when you get past the top sort of 5 guys, you're just looking for any sort of involvement in an offense. And Hunter Henry is that guy. When they get down to the red zone, they like him. So he's a threat to score a touchdown as good as anybody else. And obviously now that we're watching pass catchers in New England drop like flies, it's just a consolidation of targets. So I'm okay with Hunter Henry. I mean, I don't think you're really going to get like a big performance out of him, but I'm starting him back to my, line of demarcation. I'm starting him over a guy like Logan Thomas. I'm kind of in that, he's in that realm of player. So you're totally fine starting him if you have him.
Gotcha. And Coach Gibbs, Zeke Elliott, this is kind of a good matchup for him. Would you give him any consideration in starting lineups this week? He hasn't done overly that much, but maybe, risky, desperate play. I don't know how you feel about Zeke.
It's definitely a risky, desperate play because it's basically 40-something yards, and you better hope he gets that touchdown.
Yeah, that's all he really could say about Zeke this season. He's only been able to do decent when he's scored a touchdown. So that tells you how his season's going. Over to the next game, we have the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, this might not be as big questionable now. We actually have a question in the chat. Let's get to that before we get to the question of the game from Greg. He just lost Dallas Goedert. Would you trade Jordan Addison for Sam Laporta? He's 8-1, 12-man league PPR. Trading Jordan Addison for Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I mean, you won't meet a much bigger Laporta fan than I am. I would obviously depends on your depth at wide receiver, but yeah, I think you can easily make that trade and be just fine.
He's got Tyreek, Adams, and Watson and
Bob. You're fine. You're fine, man. Make that trade. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. You're just getting that kind of difference maker at the tight end position. So definitely a good trade. I think it's a fair trade, and based on the other wide receivers, you don't need Addison. Plus, Jefferson coming back might hurt his value in the long run with a less than mediocre quarterback. All right. So back to the question of the game here. Like I said, Nico Collins might not play. So this might change the question a little bit up here, and let's change it up here. Is Tank Dell a must-start player in this matchup? And let's say with or without, Nico Collins. Gibbs, I'll let you go first.
Yes.
Yes
I'll
is a quick
as
answer.
a wide receiver too with supreme confidence.
I like it. John?
Yeah, I think Tank Dell for sure. I mean, we talk about it. It's rare. Well, not rare, but it's hard to find guys that can go out there and do, 150 and 2 touchdowns on 8 targets or whatever the heck he did last week. So CJ Stroud's throwing at a crazy rate. Tank Dell is an electric player. You got to kind of ride those flames.
Yes, absolutely. And then some starts, obviously, you start both CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow, especially in one quarterback leagues. You start Joe Mixon, obviously. Obviously, T. Higgins might not play, so he probably shouldn't be a start, but didn't edit this before the news came out with him potentially missing this game. Jamar Chase was limited, but he said he's playing on Sunday, so I'm going to trust him. He's a start. Dalton Schultz in a favorable matchup against the Bengals, a must-start play here. Some sits. Tyler Boyd, this is Tyler Body. Tyler Body probably won't be a sit as much. He might be more of a flexible option if T. Higgins were to miss this game. Actually, a guy like Trenton Irving, I think that's his name. He kind of filled in nicely last time that T. Higgins. So maybe in dynasty leagues, a guy like Trenton Irvin, you might be able to look for his name. I wouldn't really touch the Bengals tight ends. They had some success last week, but they kind of were in and out all week long in terms of like who was catching balls. There were no patterns with the Cincinnati Bengals tight ends here. It's hard to trust them coming off a week where they saw minimum targets but caught touchdowns. Nico Collins is probably a start if he plays, obviously. Jibs, how do you feel about Noah Brown now that, if potentially no Nico Collins, does Noah Brown enter that flex conversation now?
Oh, for sure. They can't just throw the tank down the whole time. The Bengals will definitely catch on to that. They can't run the ball, so CJ Stroud's definitely going to have a third target on that team. So Noah Brown definitely will fill that. I'm sure we'll have another Dalton Schultz party this week, especially if Nico Collins is out. So definitely consider Noah Brown as Netflix territory as well.
Yes, absolutely. And Coach John, how do you feel about, more than likely it seems like I can't think of his name now. Why can't I think of his name? Damian Pierce is likely going to miss this game here. Is Devin Singletary jump into that potential RB2 discussion and maybe this time at least a more favorable matchup than last week?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can, just because the volume will obviously be there. And, at this point in the season, everyone is sort of probably struggling to fill in a solid RB2 or kind of, deal bye weeks or injuries or whatnot. And, it's not going to be pretty with Devin Singletary all the time, but he's a starting running back on a good offense in a high over-under game. So, you can do worse. I think he's locked in for 15 touches, and you hope he gets a touchdown. So that's fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree on both your guys' takes. I do like both of them if they have an opportunity and their starters are out. So we had a question in the chat from Gorilla Kid. I have the Browns defense. They're great, but they play the Ravens this week. Do you swap out the Browns, or I don't know if you have to drop them or not, to play the Raiders, Seahawks, or Colts? Or do I just keep the Browns this week? So he probably would have to drop the Browns defense to pick up the Raiders, Seahawks, or Colts. Would you drop one of them to pick to play over the Browns, or just rock with the Browns?
I wouldn't.
With the Browns.
I would just stick. Yeah, I would just stick with the Browns. I get that it's a scary matchup, but what the Browns are good at is stopping the run, and that's what Ravens have been doing for the past couple weeks, scoring all their points. And so, if you make Lamar throw, he's prone to make mistakes, and it's not impossible that the Browns can still have a decent game. Obviously, they won't have like a 25 whatever point game, but they'll still have a somewhat decent game, not bad enough that you need to drop them.
Yeah, just take your 4 points and run.
Yeah,
that's the best. Unless you're desperate for a win, which maybe the Raiders then. But like if you're playing for the rest of the season, they have a good matchup the rest of the season. Why go off 1 week if they're going to get you, like Jib said, 4 points? Just rock with the 4 points and then move on to better matchups moving forward. We have another question in chat from Marcos Valles. Love the show, guys. Thank you. I have 3 receivers available this week because of the buys. My problem is that Chase doesn't play. I would have to play DJ Moore today or be forced to cut someone. Any advice is welcome. So do you take the chance on Jamar Chase playing Sunday or just play DJ Moore now?
I would take the chance that Jamar Chase plays. It seems like he's playing. The limited practice was kind of, this time of year, a lot of veterans, if they're even kind of banged up, they just take limited time and light practice days. And so, tomorrow, all of a sudden it could be totally fine and a non-issue, and then you're not worried about it. So I trust, Jamar says he's playing. With the reports that T. Higgins already out or trending towards out, I have a feeling that Jamar will be even more inclined to play. So I'm willing to just kind of go with that and assume that Chase is going to go. And if he doesn't go, then shame on me. Call me and you can yell at me and I'll help you pick a guy to cut.
I'm going to roll with Chase, and if he doesn't play, just take that 0, man, and hold those players. Like, it's not the end of the world. Hope your record's good.
Yeah, I think he's going to play. All reports are saying that he plans on playing in this game here. But again, if you don't want to take the chance, DJ Moore's fine. He's a fine play, but taking that chance, I think it might be worth the risk because the upside with him without Higgins on the field is fantastic for Chase. It really depends what you need. If you're in a week where you're struggling, you need to make up fantasy points, put in DJ Moore. If you are doing well, maybe you're 6-3 or higher, and you're like, if you happen to, lose this week, you don't want to lose games and it's because Chase didn't play, well, I mean, you took that risk. But if you're, 4-5, 3-6, 2-7, and you need a win, just put in DJ Moore and just take that opportunity to get points in. So it really just depends on your situation. So
and I'm looking at the injury report now. It's back soreness, and so he had an MRI, no bruises, no nothing. So they'll hit him with a quarter shot and move on with his life and play the game. So I have a feeling he's probably going to go.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get back into this. We already went through this game. Let's go to the next game here now. New Orleans Saints and Minnesota Vikings. Question of the game. Who would you feel safer starting this week, Derek Carr or Joshua Dobbs?
That's a great question. This is a great
Carr's
question.
been solid, and I'm not we saw Joshua Dobbs do what he did without basically any work in that offense prior to their game last week. So if you're in a 1 QB league, maybe you're streaming quarterbacks this week, which quarterback would you prefer?
I will say this. I think Carr is safer, just based on the matchup. But Josh Dobbs is fun. Like Josh is certainly a fun one, and he has rushing ability that Derek Carr doesn't bring to the table. So, if you are looking for a bigger game, the potential for a bigger game is with Josh Dobbs. If you just want your, sort of 14 to 18 points, I mean, Derek Carr is your guy. He just lives in that territory.
I started the week off with Carr, but I'm starting to like Dobbs a lot more. Just there's a lot of variance in that Saints offense. They're utilizing Taysom Hill. And like John said, that rushing value that Dobbs provides, he's averaging 45 yards over the last 3 games, 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games. And the Saints allowed the 3rd most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. We saw Taysom Magic at 70 yards rushing against him last week. So, and they have I think at least 5 quarterbacks that gotten over 31 rushing yards throughout the season. So I'm liking me some Dobbs. I might have to make the switch on my lineups if he's still available.
I like it. I probably would still pick Carr, but I like the Dobbs takes, that's for sure. Some other good starts in this game. Obviously, you start Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. They're just getting the targets you want in the offense. Alvin Kamara, whether or not you're concerned about his snaps dropping, he's still must start option. Taysom Hill is now just a must start play until he's proven otherwise. Honestly, yeah, he's just a start. Chris Olave is obviously, you just continue to start with him with his upside. You're sitting KJ Osborne, he's coming on. He might not even play. I know he's dealing with a concussion. Ty Chandler, I'm not trusting that they're going to just start using Ty Chandler a bunch now in one game. Jamal Williams really hasn't done too much, and if he's not getting touchdowns, there's really nothing there. Who went first last time? This time, Jibs. Alexander Madison. Is he a playable option for you? You're trusting him as a flex option?
It's hard. He's basically he's having a one-man show. He's actually kind of turning alive again. So I would put him as a flex, but the Saints are a pretty good run defense. I'm not going to be holding my breath for him scoring a touchdown this week. I believe the Saints only gave up 3 rushing touchdowns so far this season. So I'm going to take the volume as it comes and then hope for the best.
Yeah, I feel I like that answer there. John, how do you feel about Michael Thomas, Rashard Rashid? The matchup's kind of decent, but obviously they both kind of really disappointed last week here. So how do you feel about them as flex options?
So this is, again, we talk about it, kind of often when we bring up flex players. I am in the philosophy that I would rather take the chance that Rashid Shaheed has a big day than the security of Michael Thomas. I get that Michael Thomas won't, other than last week where he literally got you 0. But before that, he's always kind of floating around 8, 9 points, but never more than 13. And, Shaheed could get you 20. He could get you 4. It's I'd rather take that variance to me in your flex. It's just more, it's more valuable when it hits that you win versus if Michael Thomas hits and you get 13 points, you're like, okay, great. That's fine. It's just, to me, I'd rather take the chance that Shaheed does something crazy and does something big, especially against a Vikings defense that is not scary at all. I'd rather take the upside there and take the chance there. So it's a philosophy question. I'm always going to be on the side of the big play guy, the upside guy, especially in your flex. And this is a perfect example. These are two polar opposite players.
That's true. It's a good play. Juwan Johnson, I guess, he has some sleeper appeal in this matchup here. But again, in the same sense, like I'm not trusting him just one game, having a great game this year. He caught a touchdown. He only caught 5 passes for 29 yards. So, but his name is out there in case you're desperate for a tight end, especially in deep man leagues if you're looking for an option. All right, over the next game here. Packers, Steelers here. Jibs, you're up first on this one. Are we flexing George Pickens after obviously a 1-catch week last week?
I'm not putting him anywhere near my lineup. Kenny Pickett's been super mid. It seems like every pass is going to Deontay Johnson, and you mentioned the 1-point game. Pickens only has like 10 targets over the last 2 games, and he caught 3 of the balls. Like he did get unlucky with that touchdown grab, just barely missing the getting his feet in. But even with that touchdown grab, that would have been 8 points in PPR league. So the Packers are definitely for what it's worth, a tough matchup for wide receivers. They only allowed 6 touchdowns to them, and they're giving up the 5th fewest receiving yards to wide receivers. So that plus Kenny Pickett barely getting like 160-something yards last week. I'm good. I'll leave him off the bench, and I'll rather flex some of the other players that we mentioned prior.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. John, how do you feel about Pickens?
I'm scared. I'm certainly scared because his target share numbers are not good when Deontay Johnson's around. It's much more boom or bust. There's a lot less predictability. And I'm not, I am not in love with, sort of Kenny Pickett when he has to only use Pickens for deep plays and bomb shots. I don't love that. And so Pickens has been good because they were using him close to the line of scrimmage. They're using him all over the field. They were using him as a real wide receiver. Now they got Deontay back. They're probably just going to use Pickens for those deep shots. And, I don't know if Pickett has that sort of ability to hit those at a constant rate. So I'm okay. I mean, it sucks because I do believe in the talent of George Pickens, but I think right now, until there is some sort of offensive philosophy change or whatnot, you just can't trust him.
No, I feel you. Yeah, that's that. I'm not really a big fan of that either. So I get that. I'm not really trying to start him with Deontay Johnson back either. So Peking's got a question. Christian Watson or Rashard Rashid tonight? Or not tonight, but Rashard Rashid. That's tough because both are a very similar player.
It's tough because it should be Christian Watson, right? Like he should have more target share. He should be in that, much more involved in that offense, but he kind of isn't. He is, often injured and really only used for deep shots and whatnot. So it's a coin flip in my mind. I will stick with the pecking order in Green Bay and think, maybe shame on me for thinking this, but I still think Christian Watson is one of the top targets, whereas Rashid Shaheed, even on his best day, is option number 3 behind 4, maybe behind Alvin Kamara and Olave, Taysom Hill, Michael Thomas. And so it's just more needs to happen for Shaheed to have a big game. Whereas I think Christian Watson, it hasn't been pretty lately, but he still should see 5-6 targets. No problem. Like you'd hope.
Right. Jibs.
I'll go with Watson, even though Shaheed could definitely blow up in my face as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a coin flip. I mean, honestly, Peking. Just honestly, if you flip a coin, I think it will be the same outcome either way. But I'm going to lean to the guy who is the wide receiver 1 on the team compared to, like John said, Rashid's like the 4 or 5 maybe on the team, even though his big playability is there. Gorilla King's got another question here. Should he drop Leonard Fournette to pick up the Raiders defense? He had asked before if he should hold on to Leonard Fournette
to drop the Raiders defense. That's fine. I think you could do. That's definitely a droppable piece.
So you guys don't believe that Fournette's worth holding on to your roster? He's got good RBs. He's got Pacheco, Ford, Bijan, and Mixon. So the likelihood of him ever starting Fournette is low. But the upside potentially if whenever that happens.
If you're that afraid of starting the Browns defense, then I don't mind it. Like, I'm not that scared. I'm okay. I'm comfortable starting the Browns defense, so I wouldn't even consider this. But if you are genuinely afraid of the Browns defense putting up negative points, Fournette is definitely on the outside looking in, out of your running back room. So, and I get it. Like, if you're trying to win this week, Fournette's not going to help you this week. So, but I'm not scared of start. I'm not scared starting the Browns D against the Ravens.
I don't think you have to worry about Fournette.
I think this feels like, and I get it, but it feels almost like you're overthinking it a little. Like, it's the Browns D. It's a tough matchup, but it's not an impossible matchup. The Browns can still be fine.
Right.
The guy's name is Uncle Lenny for a reason. Drop him.
That's great. For some starts in this game, there's not a lot I trust completely, but Aaron Jones, as long as he plays, Deontay Johnson is just a target machine. I don't want to start either quarterback, honestly, in this matchup. Love has been very inefficient. The matchup is okay, but not great. Kenny Pickett is just not worthy. Cameron Hayward, the tight end, he's just not enough for Dave to consider him as a start. A.J. Dillon is just only startable if Aaron Jones were to miss right now. Again, the Packers wide receivers, for me, it's like you flip a coin. You do like a wheel chart and say, who am I starting this week? Because that's kind of what their play has been. Like, every week someone new has stepped up to the plate and performed to some kind of way. And we really don't know who it is because they all see 4 or 5 targets a piece a game, and no one really stands out as the true wide receiver one consistently enough for lineups. So you start all of them as borderline flex options. I think that's the best way to describe them. You're putting them in and hoping for the best for one of them with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, basically. Who was up next here? Jibs, how do you feel about the Jalen Warren situation?
It's a fun time.
Do you start them? Are they both startable in this matchup? Or
they're startable, but like the Packers defense has gotten a lot better against running backs, especially after a bye week. I can see Harris going back into like his normal deal, like plotting for 3 yards and praying that he could get to the goal line. I wouldn't mind like Warren's like explosiveness as a flex option, especially given like some of the running backs that are on buys this week.
Right. I like it. John, how do you feel about Musgrave? Any potentials for tight end?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a athletic rookie tight end who's involved in his offense. So, he hasn't really broke out to the level that we thought he might early in the season, but he's also kind of been banged up a little bit here and there.
Right.
But I'm still comfortable starting him. Yeah, I think he's a fine start.
Good. We have another question here in the chat from RGP. Help me, guys. Start 2, Lockett, Dell, and Dotson.
Lockett and Dell for me.
Yeah, I would probably Lockett and Dell as well.
I would do Dell and Dotson personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was thinking Don, but then I also, I know that JSN is potentially out battling an injury.
So is Lockett, though.
Is Lockett really? Oh,
he's limited this week so far. So
really?
He's been limited the last couple weeks in play.
He's been limited his whole season. So
and Dotson the last 2 weeks has finally kind of bounced back to relevance. And yeah, it's Dell for sure. And then coin flip Lockett or Dotson.
If Curtis Samuel plays, then I would lean towards Lockett then. But if Curtis Samuel's out again, I'm going back to Dotson.
That's
Dotson.
Fair.
So
that's fair. Dotson.
All right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Over to the 5th game here: Tennessee Titans and the Buccaneers. This one should be fun, high scoring. But who do you guys start? Another streaming option here for quarterbacks: Will Levis or Baker Mayfield. Which direction you guys going? Jibs, you can start us up.
You went first last time.
John, go ahead, John. You go first. Will Levis or Baker?
I'll go with the consistency of Baker Mayfield. I think there's
like that.
I think there's still Will Levis is great. He's not great, but he's fun and exciting and much better than Ryan Tannehill at this point in his career. but he's still a rookie. He's still going to make a bunch of mistakes. He still doesn't really have a ton of weapons to throw to. So, will Levis make a couple throws and make you go, wow, that's crazy? You'll go, yeah, probably. But, will he have it consistently for a whole game? Probably not. So, I think there'll be a few moments where you'll be kicking yourself for not starting Will Levis, but at the end of the game, Baker Mayfield will have more points just because of consistency.
Okay. And Chips.
I do like John's answer, but for you guys that have Will Levis, this matchup is darn like juicy. The Bucs defense has been down bad since
They
week
just let
5
another rookie quarterback beat them down. So.
Yeah, dude. I think they're averaging 349 passing yards and 2 touchdowns over the last 4 games on average. Quarterbacks have gotten 27 fantasy points and 4 points per passing touchdowns. And Baker, on the other hand, the Titans have a pretty good pass defense to allow the 7th fewest yards to quarterbacks. But to John's point, like, he's been consistent. He has the volume on his hand, better weapons. So, like, that probably will get you over the edge as well. So I don't think either are bad start this week, especially if you're missing your Mahomes, Tua, or Hurts.
Right. Yeah, I think I would leave Baker personally, just for consistency purposes, for sure. Some other starts, like I'm definitely going back to the Andre Hopkins, Derrick Henry in a tough matchup. I'm still starting Henry. Rashard White has been on fire, RB3 over the last 3 weeks. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, their starts. I'm not trusting the Cade Otton big game he had last week yet. Like I want to see it again. Titans are good against tight ends. Tajay Spears isn't seeing enough production to trust him. Chigo Okonkwo is not seeing enough production to trust him either. And again, this is a favorable matchup for the Titans wide receivers, but I really wouldn't know who to start. I mean, Kenny Phillips is definitely interesting. Oh, Kyle Phillips, I'm sorry, is definitely interesting. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine has that big playability that, like, but again, you don't really want to trust any of them as a flex option because they just haven't been productive in consistency all season. So, but again, deeper leagues like Kyle Phillips or Nick Westbrook-Ikhine could be interesting options for you as a flex play.
Yeah, and just real quick, I do think that Chigo Okonkwo is a real deeper dart throw at tight end. Without Treylon Burks, they need people to catch the ball. So
I agree, and he's out this week too. He missed practice again today too. So
yeah, Burks, I can't imagine is going to play.
Yeah. All right. Question of the game: 49ers and Jacksonville Jaguars here. Jibs, we're back with you. You firing up, Calvin Ridley?
I'm firing up, and I know he's been inconsistent, but the 49ers pass defense is a weak spot for them. Over the last 2 games, 5 out of 6 wide receivers have gotten at least 10 PPR points, and the perceived number 1 wide receiver has gotten at least 25.2. So Jordan Addison had 7 catches, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. I think Calvin Ridley is that number 1. He's not going to be playing those slot snaps like Christian Kirk, so I'm down for Ridley this week. It's all the signs pointed that way.
All right. John, how do you feel about Calvin Ridley this week?
I like him. I mean, I think, the San Francisco matchup on paper is scary when you see it. Again, you can throw on him. I think that he's running all the outside deep routes. It's just for some reason, Trevor Lawrence has eyes for everybody else. But I do think that the talent is there. The routes are there. It's just, you hope the targets start leaning his way. And he's one of those guys where, he could have a big game. He could have a tough slog of it. So, but I think this one against San Francisco, where they will need to keep up in points, could be the game that he looks all right.
All right, yeah, I like those answers. I'm definitely going to fire him up for sure. Again, this one is almost everyone you start in this game. You just start Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy. You put them out there as QB1. CMC is a no question. Travis Etienne is a no question. Christian Kirk, you start him. As you see, Deebo Samuels, if they both play, you start them. You start the tight ends because the tight ends position is so bad that, well, then actually it's probably not that bad this year. But Ingram and Kittle are top tier tight ends you have to just start. And then again, just Zay Jones, it's like he was a touchdown machine. If he plays, he might be an okay flex play, but there's really no sits in this game outside of like the backups that you weren't going to play anyway. So this game should be fun on Sunday. So
yeah.
All right. Over to the next game here. Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens. John, we're back to you. Are we flexing Zay Flowers? He has not really been that great as we talk about how great his rookie year is going. It's really not that great. Are you starting him in this matchup?
I'm probably not. To be honest with you. Zay Flowers is another one similar to like we just talked about with Luke Musgrave, where early on you saw some flashes and you were expecting him to sort of break out into this other level, and he hasn't yet. And it's out of necessity. The Baltimore Ravens don't need him. They get up early. They don't need to throw. They'd rather just plug it away with Gus and Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell and whoever else they got back there running the ball. So, and then obviously Mark Andrews is still always going to be your number one target. So, Zay Flowers is good. He'll have some flashes. He might have a big play here or there, but not consistent enough yet to really jam him into my lineup. If you're really desperate with bye weeks and injuries and everything else, you can start him for sure. He's a startable, low end, sort of flex option. But I just don't see, and especially against this matchup with the Cleveland Browns, I don't see a ton of upside with, sort of big yardage and touchdowns. So it's fine. He'll see probably his typical 5 targets and do a little bit with it, but not enough for me to really want to get him in my lineup.
Right. Jibs, how do you feel about Zay? You're down on Zay. Don't start Zay this week, guys.
And John said it all. Like, he only had 8 PPR points the first outing against him, and that was a dog fight, and I expect this one to be a dog fight as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Question in the chat from Peking again. Pick 3 this week here.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Kirk, Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, and Michael Pittman. Hurry up and pick your 3.
I'll go Kirk, Olave, Pittman. I'm sitting Ayuk just because the 49ers, when everyone is healthy, is hard to predict where the production goes to.
I respect that.
I agree.
I think I would sit Kirk personally, and I'd start Olave, Ayuk, and Pittman. But I'm not afraid of sitting Ayuk either. So really, Olave, Michael Pittman for sure, and then you pick your poison between Christian Kirk and Brandon Ayuk. So, but Coach John and Coach Gibbs both said Kirk, and I said Ayuk. All right, let's back to the action here. Starts in this matchup here. You start Lamar still. His rushing upside, I think, is what makes his fantasy day here. You start Mark Andrews still, tight end position. I had all the running backs starting. I'm not feel confident in those now that I'm thinking about it, and I've done a little bit more research. But I think they're all RB3s this week. I really don't want to force myself to start one of them, but you could. But I'm not excited about them. You sit Justice Hill, Odell. I'm not trusting off one big game. Elijah Moore has just been nothing this year. Deshaun Watson, I really don't want to start him in a 1 QB league, but he has like 20 points in like all his starts this year. He does well when he starts actually and finishes the game, but this is a tough matchup. Probably more of a better sewer flex play. Let's see, John, do you start Amari Cooper?
I think you kind of have. While Deshaun Watson is there, you got to kind of start Amari Cooper and take your ups and downs.
All right, Jibs, David Njoku has had some really good games. Do you still start? Do you like him as a tight end this week?
Low end starter, and you're basically hoping for the best because I think Baltimore's second in fewest points against tight ends, and he did gather like 10.6 points, so it's not going to kill you in a PPR league, but it's going to be a tough show around.
Right. All right. Yeah, I respect it.
Good for me.
Yeah. Keontae Mitchell, like we said, he ended up on the injury reports. I don't know if you could really start him yet, but we've said that I feel like about a lot of these rookies, like, oh, show it to me again, and they end up doing it, and you're like, oh, maybe I should have just started him anyway. You have to be kind of desperate as an RB2 or flex option if you're looking for a big upside play. But again, I don't see it happening again like last week. So,
and not against this Browns run defense.
Right, exactly. All right, over to the next game here. Atlanta Falcons, Arizona Cardinals, the Battle of the Birds. Do we start Kyler Murray, Jibs?
I'm conservative by nature, so like I typically don't like to start like guys who are making their debut in the middle of the year. He could be rusty as all hell, but on the other hand, the Falcons do give up some production to quarterbacks this season, and everything we hear from Cardinals camp is, oh, Kyler's concentrated, Kyler's focused, Kyler's this and that. So I won't be like mad at fantasy managers plugging them in the lineup, but he's not going to be any of mine.
I respect it. John, how do you feel about Murray?
I mean, I'm okay starting him. I think, you were starting Josh Dobbs when he was quarterback in the Cardinals, and Kyler Murray's better than Josh Dobbs. So I think that it's, risky, obviously, first game back off injury, but I mean, he's had a year and change to recover. So I think it's not like he was a early season injury and he's coming off IR. It's like, no, this is a long-term injury that he's recovering from and clearly is ready. He was activated off IR 3 weeks ago. So he's been practicing. I'm okay starting him this week.
The new Call of Duty comes out this Friday, right?
That's the problem. That's the problem. Is next week.
Sorry, it is today. I think actually.
Once the new Call of Duty comes out, that's the problem.
Over. I mean,
this week then use them and trade them. That's what you got to do.
I probably wouldn't start Kyler Murray if I could. I mean, you have to be like, oh, I have no great quarterback option this week, or you've been streaming quarterbacks all year and you happen to stash Kyler Murray. Then start him. But if you have one of the top 12 quarterbacks, and I don't think Murray's at this moment a top 12 quarterback, I'd probably start one of those guys over Kyler Murray. But I have him as like maybe a borderline QB1, high-end QB2, but it is risky. Guy who hasn't played in over a year or so. Some other good starts in this game: Bijan Robinson, Trey McBride, Jonas Smith, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Hollywood Brown. All I think are worthy starting picks this week here. Tyler Heineke, I'm probably sitting him. I don't really care for the matchup that much. I feel like it's going to be a lot of running, hopefully, this time. I did have Tyler Algier as a sit. I've changed my mind on that. I think he can be a flexible option. I think that we've seen that way the whole backfield goes for Atlanta, that Tyler Algier could easily just get a touchdown in this game and have 10 points. And then you'll be pretty happy with a guy who gets you at least 10 points, especially at the RB position. So he's a better flex play than a sit this week. James Conner coming off injury. John, are you starting James Conner coming off injury?
That one I'm probably not starting right off of an injury. That one I might give a sec. But the other thing too is Amari DiMercato is not practicing either. So
no, he's not.
It might be James Conner by default. And then if that's the case, then, maybe you do start him coming off of an injury. But, this Atlanta-Arizona game to me stinks of a game that's going to be very low scoring and sloppy. And I don't really love, plotting running backs in those types of situations. What makes James Conner great is when Arizona, has to put up a lot of points. I just don't know if they're going to have to put up a lot of points against the Atlanta Falcons. So, I think you've survived this long without James Conner. You might be able to squeak another week where you don't need him in your lineup. But if Amari DiMercato doesn't play, then it becomes much more intriguing to get James Conner in the lineup.
All right. Again, there's really nothing else. I don't know if you really want to start any other wide receivers just yet. I want to see what Kyle Murray does on the field before I go after like a Michael Wilson or Rondale Moore just yet. But it's really just Hollywood Brown for this Arizona Cardinals team and Trey McBride. Over to the next game here. Lions Chargers. This should be a fun game here. John, you're up first. If you had to pick one to start, Dave Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs has the better day. Who has the better day?
I think it's Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have the better day. I mean, he had a massive breakout pre bye week, and we always talk about rookies coming out of the bye week. Dan Campbell was talking about how Gibbs has earned everything he's getting. He's worked his way into a major piece of that backfield. Obviously, you spent the 12th overall pick on him. It just makes sense that now the time where the shift happens and it becomes, more of a, Kamara Ingram sort of vibe than it was at the beginning of the year where, David Montgomery looked like a rock star. I think now we're going to get more of a realistic outlook And I would rather the explosiveness and pass catching of Gibbs.
Jibs, how do you feel about these two? Which one are you picking? If you
I
had to.
agree. I'm gonna go with Gibbs as well. I'm sure Monty will probably still have like his red zone duties in a way, but like John said, Gibbs offers more versatility in the passing game, and the Chargers allowed the second most receiving yards to running back so far, 426 yards, and they're averaging 7 catches for 53 receiving yards per game. So like that profiles Gibbs, and he's fast as hell. Sorry.
Yeah, the Chargers are actually a really good run defense. Where they struggle is in the passing game. So if Gibbs can get that pass catching role in this matchup here, he should be in for like a guy who gets like 8 or 9 targets in this game pretty easily. Again, there's a lot of good plays here. Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Amon St. Brown, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Sam Laporta, all starts. Joshua Kelly, probably not starting him. Donovan Peoples-Jones, new to the team, not going to trust him in his first game. Let's see here. Quentin Johnston. Jibs. Quentin Johnston. You playing Quentin Johnston?
If you need to.
If you need to. I like that answer. If you need to. I don't hate it.
I'm sorry. I was hoping I would get like Everett or something, but
No. Everett's not getting talked about. John, James Williams or Josh Reynolds? Neither have done really that great in the last few weeks. Even Reynolds now has been kind of falling apart.
This is kind of crazy. I think Josh Reynolds. I think Josh Reynolds. I've at least seen it in the past with Josh Reynolds. You know, Jameson Williams is just all projection and hype still. Like we haven't really seen a full-on like good Jameson Williams week. And so, you know, yeah, there's tons of prospect and hype and love and energy around the guy, but I don't know, if you can't put it together, you can't put it together. So Josh Reynolds, I've at least seen put it together, and so if he's healthy and can, you know, take a couple deep targets, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up because since Jameson Williams is back out, Josh Reynolds has in 3 games that Jameson Williams has started fully. Josh Reynolds has 100 total yards and under 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So that's why I bring that up there. He is not terrible since Jameson Williams has been back on the field. And Gerald Everett, Lions aren't great against tight ends. I think he's a sleeper tight end this week for your fantasy lineups. All right, on to the next one here. Giants, Cowboys. Now, this is going to be an interesting question here. Do you start your Cowboys offense? We saw what happened last time with this whole offense for the Cowboys. No one really played well. Dak was under 6 fantasy points. Tony Pollard didn't do great. CeeDee Lamb was average at best. You know, we all love that Jake Ferguson almost caught a touchdown because this defense is so dominant. And look what they have this time. They don't have the same Giants as they had before. They have a Giants team that has a worse offensive line than last time. It has Tony DeVito as their starting quarterback and doesn't have Darren Waller on the field. So do you even start your Cowboys? Like, if there's better matchups, do you consider sitting them in this matchup?
I think you can still
just say talent is talent, and I'm just going to start him.
I think you can still start Jake Ferguson. Obviously, just because I think tight ends are tough, and he's looked good. He's involved constantly, so I think you're okay with Jake Ferguson. But I'm not really trusting Tony Pollard, which is crazy to think about because, you know, we were talking about taking James Conner off. Like I would start James Conner off IR over Tony Pollard in this matchup, which is crazy to think about. But like, I don't know. I just, you know, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a lot of sort of, you know, touchdown upside. It's not, if it's high scoring, it'll be defensively high scoring for the Cowboys. I don't think they're going to need to really, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to really need to like put up numbers against the Giants. And we just watched the Giants offense look absolutely abysmal against the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Cowboys are going to have a field day.
The Cowboys offenses look really good lately, especially that passing game with Dak and CeeDee Lamb. They've been nasty the last few weeks now.
The Giants, I'll make a prediction. The Giants won't have more than 2 first downs the entire game. It's going to be so hard for them to move the ball. It's going to be insane. I really do think that they're going to get blanked, and the Cowboys are just going to do whatever. They're going to use it as a warm-up game and then just do whatever they feel like.
All right, Jibs, how do you feel about this situation?
I totally disregarded the Giants quarterback situation. Like I was definitely okay to start Pollard. I was just gonna say, hey man, like he's due. We just saw Josh Jacobs get like 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brees Hall had freaking 76 yards receiving or something and a touchdown. Tony Pollard's due, and then I'm thinking about it as like, yeah, he probably get something on one drive and the game might be over after that. So I'm okay
That's
with
the hard
Lamb.
part.
I'm okay. Honestly, I'll probably end up playing Pollard because I just believe that. But I'm okay with him and Jake Ferguson. But if it's a route early, like they could be pulling the starters by like
Halftime.
Quarter.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like,
We'll see a lot of Rico
Americans,
Dowdle
like,
in the
nah.
second half. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it could be really bad.
Yeah, it's definitely tough because, we could also see the Cowboys go 3 straight drives, touchdown, 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 and it could be Lamb, Pollard, Dak all 3 times, and they could have a great game. So it's just like you have to take that risk with the good and the bad with this situation here, and maybe not expect the Cowboys defense to score 2 touchdowns early in this game, or you're hoping that they cause turnovers and allow a short field for the Cowboys and they score. So it's tough. You're really going to have to take that risk because I think it could go either way. But if it goes the wrong way, you're starting a lot of premier players that end up getting sat at halftime or in the third quarter because they're up 28-0 at half. So, like, you have to take that risk. But I wanted people to know that you might want to look a different direction. I still think Pollard is a start. I still think Ferguson start. Where the Dak, I don't know. It depends on your quarterback situation. But there are starts like Barkley and CeeDee Lamb's the only ones I truly feel confident in. You're obviously not starting Tommy DeVito. You're not really starting any of the Giants wide receivers because none of them have done well this year. Maybe Darius Slayton, but I don't really want to trust that. Daniel Bellinger might be the best tight end there, the best pass catcher. So he might be a sleeper tight end for this team here. Probably not starting any Gallup, Cooks, Tobert. Rico Dowling might be an option actually in deeper man leagues, especially if he gets the fourth quarter work. But yeah, this game could go one or two directions, and it could be very, very bad if the offense doesn't hit and the defense hits big time again.
Dude, the spread has to be like -30 on that game.
Probably. I don't know. I haven't checked. I haven't done the spread yet. Commander Seahawks. Question of the game. I think we're back at you, Jibs. Are we firing up the Seattle receivers? All 3.
It depends, like if they're available and whatnot. But
if they're all playing,
injury aside, like I'm definitely firing all 3 of them up. Even though Metcalf has been just like brutal as of lately, I'll have him as like a low end wide receiver too, lowest I could put him. Definitely interested in Lockett as a wide receiver 3, and then JSN. High-end flex. He's been hot lately, and the Washington Commanders is second most points from fantasy receivers. They allowed 1,713 yards and 13 touchdowns. I think that's second most in the NFL. So it's going to be a shootout, boys.
All right.
Love those pistols.
Yeah. John, how do you feel about the receivers? You starting R3 no matter what?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. I don't know about no matter what. I mean, I think it has to do with sort of maybe what your other options are. DK for sure, a lock. Tyler Lockett, like 90% gonna start him. JSN, you can, but I would just question who else you got out there. But yeah, all 3 could be started.
Yeah, I think you could, honestly. I mean, I'm still kind of torn on the JSN thing because I feel like the Commanders will be behind in this game where the Seahawks might not need to throw the ball as much as they have in recent weeks. I mean, that's what most of the reason JSN had a great game last week because he caught 4 passes for 40 yards in the fourth quarter of a game that they were down 30. So, like, I don't know, he's still a little out for me, but definitely Metcalf and Lockett. Some other good starts. Sam Howell, he's a QB1 for my eyes. Brian Robinson, Ken Walker, Terry McLaurin, John Dotson, if there is no Curtis Samuel. Seattle's tight ends, I'm sitting. You guys trust Geno Smith in a 1 QB league? He's got the best possible matchup ever.
Yeah, I think you can.
You're going to roll him out as a streaming tight end. It's like, you know what? I'm going to just go and see.
Yeah, if you can't start him in this matchup, then you can't start him ever. So that's my opinion.
I'm rolling them in 2 leagues, I believe. So yes.
All right, respect it. Logan Thomas, the tight end one, or is he not a good tight end this week? Seattle's pretty good against tight ends.
I don't know about tight end 1, probably more like a high end 2, but you take what you can get at that position sometimes.
All right. All right.
By the way, I looked it up. Dallas is a 17-point favorite against the New York Giants.
20,
I think I've seen higher than that this year.
I don't know. I don't know how many times I've seen a 17-point spread.
I'm picking the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel could be an okay flex if he plays. I think Zach Charbonnet, I don't know. I don't really feel confident starting him just yet in lineups. Like, he's not doing enough to trust him yet, but like he is seeing more work. I don't know. Like he's more of like a flex play. You're low in players because of the bye weeks or injuries to put him in your lineup. Personally, that's how I feel about him. All right, over to the Sunday night football game. Man, we have great primetime games. New York Jets versus the Las Vegas Raiders. And this one's fun. Jibs, I think we're back at you. I don't know. Maybe not. Who went last time? Who went last time? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're going back to back. Devontae Adams, is he a sure start?
Nope. You just gotta put that Shannon Sharp gif in there when he's just like, nope, 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 nope. Like you saw, like what Justin Herbert did in Monday Night Football. He was limited to 7.1 fantasy points, 136 passing yards, and we saw what DeVito and Tyrod put together 2 weeks ago. And then you're thinking, I'm going to trust Aiden O'Connell to go out and light up the Jets defense? No, sir. The only way I see Adams like actually providing like a decent floor for you is if he's just getting used in short odd areas, and he'll need tons of volume to make dividends. He's only been averaging 7 targets over the last 2 weeks with a mediocre 22.5 receiving yards per game. You can pray for a touchdown, but the Jets only allowed 1 touchdown pass to wide receivers this year, so it's looking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
John, you feel the same way? Not a sure start.
No, not a sure start at all. I'm kind of, I'm right now. To be honest,
Michael Pittman or Devontae Adams.
Yeah, it's funny that it's not an insane question to ask. I would probably, I would lean towards Pittman. I think the Jets defense is that legit, and I think Aiden O'Connell is going to really get a wake up call. This isn't the Giants, man. This is a real
Jordan Addison or Devontae Adams.
Oh man, probably Addison. It's crazy. Probably
Quentin Johnston or Devontae Adams.
No, okay, I was thinking Devontae Adams.
All right,
I had to draw the line somewhere.
Wide receiver 3 for Adams this week, then, because
I think Devontae Adams is probably that. Yeah, Devontae Adams in my mind is probably a low 2 with obviously crazy upside because he's Devontae Adams. But it's like, if you haven't done it in the past couple weeks, why do I expect it to happen now? And so there's always the threat, because Devontae Adams is a superstar. There's always the threat that he can go out there and have a monster game, because it is. But I just think, again, if you're playing the game of probability, the chances of it happening this week against the Jets with Aiden O'Connell and all, the odds just start to stack up against you, where it's probably not going to happen this week. So, if he has three catches for 40 yards and no score, it's like, yeah, that's very much in the realm of possibility as well.
Okay. All right. Some other starts, obviously, Josh Jacobs, Bryce Hall, Garrett Wilson, all starts. You sit both quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, Aiden O'Connell. You sit every other Jet receiver possible, Tyler Conklin, Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter. Like, I'm not trusting any of these guys in lineups. I think we can all kind of probably say no Michael Mayer for sure, just on base how he's been forming. Jacoby Myers is like a borderline flex play with the way everything's been going with this team, especially in a tough matchup. But this is not going to be a fun Sunday night football game. Very disappointing. We have to watch this on Sunday night football. Over to the Monday night football game. This one could be a little bit more interesting. But who would you guys trust more, Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, John?
I'm trusting Sutton more because, he's been kind of on a hot streak with touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, I don't know what's going on there, but he just clearly isn't on the same page with the team, isn't on the same page with Russell Wilson, just doesn't look awesome. And meanwhile, Cortland Sutton quietly has just been racking up TDs. So, I'll take my chance. They're going to need to throw the ball. They're going to need to keep up with the Bills. I'll take my chance that Cortland Sutton gets another touchdown this week.
I'm Sutton as well. 6 touchdowns, and Jerry Judy's 1 that he got last week. And Cortland Sutton, I think, reached at least 10 PPR fantasy points in 7.
All right. Oh, you're muted off, Jibs, now. I don't know. He picked Cortland Sutton, though. I like it. Cortland Sutton is my answer, too. I just trust the connection he has with Russell Wilson. The targets he's seeing in the red zone is just uncomparable to what then Jerry Judy's has really given us this season. And I'm not trusting a 1 week off a bye. That's going to change everything for Jerry Judy's fantasy value. Other good starts. I like Josh Allen. I think Russell Wilson can do fine as a borderline QB1. Javonte Williams looks like he's back in prime, ready to take this backfield over the last few weeks. I do trust him as a pretty strong wide RB2. James Cook is fine. He's got a good matchup against the Broncos' poor run defense. Diggs and Davis, I'm just going to give them chances to start once again. Dalton Kincaid has just been a dominant force since he'd be in the starting lineup. Sitting Adam Trotman, Jalen McLaughlin, Samaje Perine, I don't really want to start them. I don't think they're seeing enough work. Latavius Murray's out of anywhere near starting work. Khalid Shakir could be interesting. Yes or no? Would you guys trust Khalid Shakir as a flex? I'd probably say no still. But
probably no, just because I think the Bills are going to be able to handle business against the Broncos and won't need to throw it as much as they have in the past couple games.
Right.
So I'm okay if Shakir's one of those guys where if you think it's going to be an absolute shootout, you can plug him in. But if it's not going to, I don't think this game's going to be. So I'm okay sitting him.
All right. Well, we will wrap things up there, guys. That is our week 10 starts and sits per game. Coach John, anything you want to say before we get going?
Nope. Thank you to everyone that tuned in, everyone that was in the chat asking questions. It's always fun. Hit that subscribe button. It takes literally a second, and it means the world to me and my future child. So please,
congratulations, Coach John.
Thank you.
Coach John's having a baby.
Yeah, having a baby. Yeah, just those Debbie ranks, baby. It's coming. Class of probably 2036 or whatever.
I can't wait to be talking about him.
If football. I'm still doing this podcast talking football about my kid, it'll be crazy.
That'd be great. Coach Jibs, anything you want to say?
If you can hear me, salute.
I can hear you,
brother.
Love it. And of course, guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. We do obviously really do appreciate you guys listening in, whether you're coming into the chat here on our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Coaches. We really do appreciate it. Whether you're listening afterwards on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we love that you listen to us. We love that you guys send us 5-star reviews. We love all that. Of course, if you're looking to make some money tonight, Parlay Play. Go to their website, parlayplay.com, use the promo code Coach Steve, and you can get yourself matched up to $100 on your first deposit, which is fantastic. Who wouldn't want that? It's on the screen below. And they give you another $5 for free as well. So check that out. And of course, guys, we'll be back next Monday talking starts, waiver wire talk. We'll be back obviously next Thursday talking start and sits for week 11. And every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We thank you guys for listening in again, and good luck on your week 10s. And we will see you all later. Take care and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of Clark Kents. I've been feeling super duper.